Chicago, South Side, 1957. Vivian is 27. Saturday begins at the stove. The hot comb is on the burner. A wet cloth is on the counter. A Vaseline jar is open. Ebony magazine is on the table, turned to a page she has seen before. She knows what she is doing, and none of it was something the beauty industry taught her. By number 1, you will understand why. Number 12, the wet cloth test. Before the comb touched her hair, Vivian touched the cloth, a folded piece of cotton, dampened, pressed close to the comb's teeth. If the sizzle came fast, the comb was ready. Too hot and the hair would scorch. Not hot enough and the press would not hold. Oral histories collected by the History Makers Archive describe this moment across dozens of voices. The sizzle of wet cloth on hot metal, the faint curl of steam, the quiet command, "Stay still," before the comb moved. She learned it from her mother. Her mother learned it from hers. The wet cloth was a kitchen rag. It was also a precision instrument. No instructions came with it. The comb was the tool. What it was pressing into the hair and why is a different story. Number 11, the petrolatum system. The Vaseline jar on the counter was not one product. It was several. Scalp treatment, hair sealant, hand moisturizer, lip conditioner. One jar, at least 3 uses before she left the apartment. Madam C.J. Walker's foundational hair care method, still shaping black women's routines in the 1950s, was built around a petrolatum-based scalp ointment. Her great-great-granddaughter, Alelia Bundles, described the formula in a 2024 NPR interview. Clean the hair, apply the ointment, press with the comb. The petrolatum was not a shortcut, it was the chemistry. Annie Turnbow Malone built the earliest commercial black hair care line, partly because before her, there was essentially nothing widely available except household fats. The jar looked cheap. In Vivian's kitchen, it was a professional system in one container. Number 10, the foundation that wasn't made for her. Revlon's 1950s foundation shades. Cream ivory, cream beige, misty rose, Rachel, suntan, dark dark. That last shade sounds promising. It was still not formulated for darker skin tones. Foundation designed for lighter complexions, applied to darker skin, turned gray. The brands that actually worked, Posner, Lucky Heart, Overton's High Brown, did not sell at department store counters. They sold through mail order and door-to-door agents. The founder of Marjani Beauty later described what black women were doing in this era as becoming chemists at home. Mixing shades, testing against the wrist, getting it right through repetition. Vivian did not go to the department store counter. The brands she could use were not sold there. The counter was not the only door that stayed shut. Number 9, the salon that wasn't on the main street. Vivian's Saturday appointment was 2 blocks from her apartment, in a chair she had sat in since she was a girl. Not downtown. In the 1950s, most salons remained segregated by law and custom. In some states, cosmetology licensing exams were administered by race, a black hair care track and a white hair care track. After legal desegregation, crossover in clientele remained almost entirely limited. Black-owned salons ran along corridors like Chicago's 47th Street and Harlem's 125th Street. The mainstream beauty industry did not acknowledge them. Historian Tiffany Gill, in Beauty Shop Politics, argues that this enforced separation created something the industry never intended. A space the women controlled. No white employer, no white oversight. The money stayed in the community. Segregation took something. What they built inside that restriction is harder to name. The next number gives it a shape. Number 8. The room where news traveled. A woman under a salon dryer, hair in rollers, warm air humming. It looks like the most passive image from that era. The conversation under those dryers was anything but. The Smithsonian's National Museum of American History documents black beauty parlors in the 1950s as independent, black-controlled spaces, free from employer surveillance. Highlander Folk School, which trained civil rights activists across the South, actively recruited black beauticians, reasoning that theirs was one of the professions which offered to its members great freedom for leadership in community action. Some beauty college curricula by the 1950s and 1960s included guidance on engaging clients in political conversations. Ella Baker, Rosa Parks, and Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. each acknowledged the salon as a center of influence. The name passed under the dryer. The meeting time. The courthouse date. Nobody outside that room needed to know. Outside that room, the beauty industry had its own message. It was printed on the table in the waiting area. Number 7. The magazine that sold the wrong ideal. The issue of Ebony on Vivian's table was open to an advertisement not for lipstick, but for a complexion improver. A product marketed to lighten the skin. Ebony, founded in 1945, was a landmark publication, the first major national magazine to center Black life and Black beauty. It ran skin-lightening advertisements throughout the 1950s. So did the Chicago Defender, which had carried bleach cream ads since the 1910s. By mid-century, manufacturers had softened the language. Bleach became fade cream. Bleach became complexion improver. The product and the message were the same. The ad was not in life. It was not in look. It was in the magazine that was supposed to be hers. Research published in Gender and History confirms what experience already showed. In the 1950s, light-skinned Black people held measurable advantages in employment and marriage rates. The beauty industry had not invented that pressure. It had found it and was selling to it. Until now, the rules lived in kitchens and salon chairs. What comes next belongs to the industry, the catalogs, the chemistry labs, the decisions about who was worth a product line. Number 6. The test nobody published. In some Black social clubs, fraternities, sororities, and reportedly churches during the mid-20th century, membership was reportedly determined in part by comparing a person's skin tone to the color of a brown paper bag. Those lighter were admitted. Oral histories and secondary sources describe this practice widely enough that it shaped behavior without ever needing to be announced. The Cotton Club reportedly used a version when hiring Black female performers. A New York job listing from the 1950s, cited in a PBS piece drawing on the New York Times, showed a business owner advertising for light-colored counter help. Vivian knew which organizations used the rule. She did not need it explained. The consequence was real. Job opportunities, club memberships, social invitations. The color of a woman's skin shaped her access to the Black social world as surely as it shaped her access to the white one. The skin lightening ads in Ebony were not unrelated. The market knew the standard. It was selling the solution. Number 5. The shade you mixed yourself. The click of the compact lid. The sweep of a fingertip across 2 powder cakes. The test against the inside of the wrist. 60 seconds, if she had practiced long enough. By 1958, Eunice Johnson was running the Ebony Fashion Fair, a traveling show featuring Black models. She noticed the same problem at every stop. The models could not find a single foundation shade that matched. They were mixing. Johnson began working toward a cosmetics line. Fashion Fair Cosmetics launched in 1973, 15 years later. In the meantime, Posner, Lucky Hart, and Overton's served the market through mail order and door-to-door agents. The mainstream industry had decided this customer was not worth the investment. The women had already solved the problem. They passed the formula along. Number 4. The press that wouldn't hold in rain. She pressed her hair on Saturday. By Thursday, if warm weather moved in, the style could begin to revert. Not fail revert, return to its natural texture, which in the 1950s was not treated as a look, it was treated as a grooming problem. Heat-straightened hair absorbs humidity. The press was temporary. It required repressing, sometimes mid-week. It required checking the weather before accepting an invitation. The smooth, effortless-looking style in photographs was built on a schedule of heat, attention, and planning that no one photographed. As late as 1969, a Newsweek poll found that 70% of Northern Black Americans under 30 approved of the natural style meaning that year. Approval for wearing one's own hair was still being measured as if it were a position one might oppose. Number 3. The exam that was different. The woman who taught Vivian how to press hair, how to test the comb, how to read a scalp, how to manage fine edges, held a cosmetology license. In some states during the 1950s, that license came through a racially separated process. There was a white hair care exam and a black hair care exam. The skills tested were not the same. The professional structure that followed was not the same. A cosmetology license looks identical in both hands. It was not built the same way. The technique was advanced hours of precision work on hair textures most mainstream beauty schools had never taught and would not recognize. The licensing system coded this expertise as a separate category. Not part of the professional standard, not part of the industry. The knowledge existed, the credential was divided. Number 2. The market that arrived 40 years late. In 1961, Avon placed its first black model in an advertisement in Ebony magazine. This is documented in Susanna Walker's style and status, selling beauty to African American women. Vivian was 31 that year. She had been mixing foundations for more than a decade. Her mother had been doing it longer. In the late 1960s, a handful of cosmetics lines for black women debuted. Florrie Roberts billed itself as the first carried in department stores. Fashion Fair Cosmetics arrived in 1973. The market had always been real. The spending had always been real. The industry had simply decided, for decades, that this customer was not worth the investment. From Vivian's kitchen, the side of a woman who had been building her own system before any of these brands existed, the arrival of a black face in a mainstream ad looked less like progress than like a business noticing, something she had known since she was old enough to hold a comb. They found the market. The knowledge that market had already built, that is, Number 1. Number 1. What she passed down. The hot comb on the burner, the Vaseline jar, the wet cloth, the 2 compacts, and the mixing wrist. The salon 2 blocks away, the conversation under the dryer, the formula no brand ever asked to record. None of this existed because the mainstream beauty world built it. Women built it themselves and passed it forward. Madam C.J. Walker built a company from kitchen formulas still foundational in the 1950s. Annie Turnbow Malone built Poro College, a school for black cosmetology, from the same starting point. Christina Jenkins patented the modern hair weave in the 1950s. Marjorie Joyner patented a permanent wave machine. Joan Johnson co-founded Johnson Products in 1954. Eunice Johnson launched Fashion Fair in 1973 after watching models mix foundations for 15 years and deciding that was long enough. The History Makers Archive holds dozens of accounts. Sitting on a kitchen floor, watching a mother test the comb, memorizing the sizzle sound. Not a brand launch. A Saturday morning. A stove. A girl watching a woman who already knew. The beauty industry buried these tricks by refusing to discover them. The women already had them. Vivian is back at the stove on Saturday morning. Same jar. That kitchen looked ordinary at the start. It was not. Each object on that counter answered a world that had not made room for her. The rules she carried were not in any handbook. They passed through hands. If your family had a jar, a comb, or a Saturday ritual no one ever wrote down, leave it below. Subscribe.